Welcome to Load the Box, everybody. It's Monday, March 27th when we are recording this. Will. With me is Jordan from Cincinnati, Ohio. Jordan, we're gonna kick this show off right away. It's been sort of, we're kind of in that lull between, combine, free agency, or probably more like free agency, combine, draft. But the Vikings have been up to a few things, and then in biggest news, not up to some things. And we'll start with that piece. So Kirk Daniel Cousins, he's been operating the Vikings offense for 5 seasons now. Many fans will remind us that it's been 2 playoff appearances, 1 playoff victory. He wears number 8 in purple. He allegedly offered to take a team discount for a extension. It sounds like, from what we're hearing from Ben Gosling from the Star Tribune, that Kirk's offer on the table was, hey, I want that extension into the 2025 season. And this was actually something that I wrote about a couple months back after the Vikings exited the playoffs, that Cousins, there was reason to believe that signing him to 2 more seasons could make sense. And that sounded like what he wanted as well. The Vikings, however, balked at that idea. And from what it sounds like, because of the fact that Kirk will be 37 years old in that 2025 season, which in some ways you can't blame him for that. It's, most quarterbacks don't age terribly well in their late 30s, except for maybe Tom Brady. And really, the last thing here, and then I'll hand it off to you for your thoughts on it, is it just sounds like the Vikings were looking at more of a shorter term extension if they were going to do one, and Kirk wanted the extra year. To me, it seems like it would be, just by deductive reasoning, the Vikings wanted to do 1 extra year, Kirk wanted 2 extra years. So that's kind of where it leaves us. Kirk is likely to play out his last season on the contract here, unless for some reason the Vikings were to trade him before the season started. So that's kind of where we sit here at the end of March.
Yeah, I think the biggest, and that was beautifully spoken, well done. I think the biggest thing that broke today, because I think that was kind of, I don't want to say old news, but I think that was what was speculated, was like, hey, if the Vikings are saying, like, we will extend you 1 year to push cap space and kind of go in, and the Cousins camp was like, we want a 2 or 3 year extension. I think most people were saying they wanted a 3 year extension, but I think that was speculation, and now it's coming out that it was just a 2 year. Which seems super petty. I mean, I get it, but like, it's not by the Cousins campo, by the Vikings, kind of by both. Like, to be like, you're 1 year off, man. Like, come on, you got to be able to meet, and get something done. Yeah, like just flip a coin at that point. But either way, I think the news that broke today was Cousins offered to take a pay cut to sign the extension and to get locked up for those 2 seasons. And like you said, the Vikings, they balked at it, and they said, no, we're not gonna bite. We're fed up, and I'm not gonna go down the anti-Kirk. I'm not gonna be like, oh, they didn't want to hitch their wagon to a guy that blah 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 blah. No, like, none of that. I think Kirk had a really, really good season, his best season as a Viking in terms of wins. Yeah, he didn't get the playoff win, but whatever, we were like right there to win in the wild card. We would have gotten stomped out by San Francisco or by Philadelphia. They were the 2 best teams in the conference this season. I think it's interesting because I posted this on Twitter, and I always look at things as information doesn't just leave the building for no reason. Typically, there is an agenda behind everything that gets out. And so I was curious what the agenda was, and as I'm looking at it, and I still believe this, the Vikings benefit nothing from releasing out, hey, we had an opportunity to keep Kirk long-term on a pay cut. We opted not to. They don't benefit from that at all. If anything, if they're trying to trade him, it tells the rest of the league, we're not really interested in this guy. Somebody call us about him, and then his value plummets. So I think that the Cousins camp might have been the ones that leaked this out. And I don't know if they're still actively negotiating, so maybe it's an attempt to sway public opinion and put a little bit of pressure on the Vikings to get something done or what. But it just said pay cut. It didn't say, he was going to come play for vet minimum. There were rumblings it was less than the Daniel Jones contract. Mm-hmm. Which a lot of people are laughing at right now, saying, wow, they paid Daniel Jones way too much money. So, I mean, if he said, hey, I'll come play for you guys for, I don't want $39 million. I'll play for 37. Then we're not talking about a massive, we're not talking about the type of pay cuts that I think Tom Brady was taking. Well, he was
No.
like the seventh highest paid quarterback in the league, and kind of there was an under the table agreement, which I just heard this. I'd never heard this. There was an agreement like, hey, I'll be the seventh highest paid quarterback. You have to spend every cap dollar we have every year of this contract, or else I'm immediately going to be like, okay, well, pay me then if we're not going to win championships. So it's interesting. I agree with the Vikings decision. There's now reports that the Vikings are fascinated. That was the word I saw today. Fascinated with the idea of getting a quarterback on a rookie scale contract, which is kind of it's turning into like a buzzword. Like I almost want to roll my eyes when I hear that, even though I'm in the camp of, hey, let's go get a rookie quarterback. So, I don't know. Maybe we'll see the Vikings move up into the top 10 and get Will Levis. It seems that's their guy of the top 4 quarterbacks. Maybe something nuts will happen at the back end of the first round. They'll end up with a Hendon Hooker. There was news a couple days ago. The Vikings are meeting with Jalen Hall. They're interested in him, in the middle round. So I do think they're going to draft somebody this year, but there's a lot. I think Dustin put it really well that last week on the show. If you haven't listened to that, go listen to it. We talk about Duke Shelley in it. Unfortunately, we'll get to that. But Dustin put it really well when he said, life after Cousins begins next season. This seems like the last dance for Cousins, and how fitting he's doing a Netflix documentary kind of going over the seasons. So we'll see what happens, but I think it just makes April 27th that much more exciting. Do you think the Vikings made a mistake by not inking Cousins to a 2-year contract?
It's really hard to say, honestly. Like, in some ways, I'm not sure either of them made a mistake per se, because if you think about it from Kirk's perspective, he wants that 2 years because he knows he's 37 in 2 years. Like, he's not an idiot. And so he knows that this might be his last chance to make a considerable chunk of change, because by the time he's 37, 38, even if he does sign another contract with a different team per se, he's probably not going to make as much money. He'll probably make, middle of the pack money for a 1-year contract, sort of like, go join a team that's on the fringe, good enough, might need a decent quarterback to get to the playoffs sort of thing, but they don't want to, pay him tons of money. So he probably knows that this is the last chance where he can sort of make big dollars, if you will. And so to him, he's probably saying like, well, I either want those 2 years to guarantee that, or I want to just play out this last year, because I don't want to be caught in the middle where I'm like 36 years old and I'm kind of losing my traction as an NFL, like a, top tier NFL quarterback. And so from his perspective, he's probably thinking, well, I got to bet on myself. And if I want to get that sort of big-ish contract, it's got to be next summer. So in his perspective, it makes sense to turn down the 1-year extension. And from the Vikings perspective, it also kind of makes sense to turn down the 2-year extension, because even though I'm someone who really, I think Kirk Cousins' value is understated and I think his cap hit is overstated, I understand why the team would not want to extend him by 2 years because of his age. And so I don't really think there's a mistake that was made. I think it's unfortunate for the short-term competitiveness of the team, because I think what you're sacrificing in the short term is viability, and you're risking it, really. That's probably the better word than sacrificing, because who knows, maybe your rookie quarterback that you get is really good and he's cheap and you can win in the short term. Maybe you don't, compete for a Super Bowl, but you get to the playoffs sort of thing. But I think, that's sort of the discount that, at least from, the fans' perspective, or maybe some players like Justin Jefferson, who might look at this and say, okay, like, I know Kirk isn't Tom Brady, but who's this rookie going to be? I need somebody who can throw me the ball, and I need somebody who can, keep me happy. And I know he's not a stats guy in, as much as maybe some other receivers might be, but also he knows that he'll want to win, and that was one of the arguments that I made for extending Kirk Cousins by 2 years, was you guarantee that Justin Jefferson is going to have competitive teams to be on. I guess I maybe should scale that back a little bit. You're not necessarily guaranteeing it, but you are you're giving Jefferson more confidence that he will have a Pro Bowl quarterback throwing him the ball, keeping teams in games,
Yeah.
giving you a chance to win. And it's just such a wild card when Jefferson's up for that extension, like you and I talked about earlier this winter. And the Vikings haven't done anything about that yet. And part of me wonders maybe Jefferson is like, well, who's the quarterback going to be?
Yeah.
Maybe he would rather play out his rookie deal and, because he knows he's going to get a big deal, whether it's this year or next year, like he's going to get the
He's
big
gonna be the
money.
highest paid wide receiver in NFL
Yeah.
history, and I don't think it'll be. There's no one's gonna bat an eye at it either. I do want to say
No.
one thing about Jefferson. Not that I don't love the guy. I want the Vikings to keep him, pay him whatever he wants. I'm all for the Jefferson thing. I think it's really easy for it to feel like Jefferson is not a stats guy because so far throughout his career he has put up stats because he's had Kirk Cousins. This is the first time we've speculated on this show, and I think it's worth talking about. Jefferson he sees all of this. His agent sees all of this speculation about Cousins not getting an extension, so they're going to draft somebody. Maybe it's, like I said earlier, Will Levis, Hendon Hooker, Jalen Hall, Clayton Tune. I mean, all these names.
Yeah.
Maybe he wants to see this guy in a training camp, in preseason, to see who's taking over before he inks a deal in and potentially has to play, with, to go back in Vikings terms, before he signs up for a few years of, Christian Ponder, Donovan McNabb, who else was it? Teddy Bridgewater, Matt Castle was, played some games for those, some and the Vikings had some success in that era. They made the playoffs a time or two, in that era.
Yeah.
But they made
the
not
playoffs with Christian Ponder.
Yeah, I think they won 11 games that season. That was also the Adrian Peterson, 6 yards away from making history season. So I don't think Christian Ponder was necessarily the reason, but I guarantee if you ask any of Christian Ponder's wide receivers that season, hey, do you have a good time? They'd probably say no, because what were they doing? They were blocking for Adrian Peterson because the Vikings couldn't throw the ball. So if the Vikings get into, especially with the moves they've made this offseason, signing Josh Oliver, a blocking tight end, extending CJ Ham, one of the better fullbacks in the NFL, extending him. Seems like Kwesi and O'Connell are like, we need to pound the beef a little bit more than we did. So if you're Jefferson, you don't know who the quarterback's going to be. They're signing guys to extensions that indicate they're going to run the ball more. Maybe Jefferson, look, I'm sure he wants to win a Super Bowl. Maybe he would love to be the guy that breaks Megatron's record, and he doesn't foresee that happening in Minnesota. So maybe there is, because I'm not antsy about the Jefferson contract yet.
No.
But if it doesn't get done before training camp or during training camp, if it's not done by then, I'm antsy. If it's not done first game of the season, something's up. Because the Vikings are calling him. They're trying to work something out. Something's up if it's not done by kickoff 2023. So I think that's something that wasn't on our list, but I think that's something to definitely keep our eyes on.
Well, it definitely fits into the whole Kirk Cousins conversation. They're not a package deal by any means, but one leads to the other. And so, if I'm Justin Jefferson, I think your approach is spot on. I wait and see. Why am I in a rush? I have all the leverage. I'm the best receiver in the NFL for most people's money.
Yep.
I might as well wait.
What happens if the Vikings draft Kellen Mond 2.0
again?
And he's bad, and he's not, and he's he stinks.
I wouldn't want to be here if I was him either. So, and who knows? Jefferson is not a super social media-y guy, so we haven't seen him, blasting anybody on social media or anything like that. We haven't heard much from him since the playoff loss. But I think you mentioned CJ Ham. I think that's a good lead into sort of some of these maybe lower key moves that were made over the last couple of weeks. And Ham that deal's sort of been done now for a little bit of time. But just so for everyone's aware, CJ Ham was extended by 2 years. So, he's going to be around. It was funny. I think when we were talking with Dustin last week, it was funny. We were kind of talking about how we think that CJ Ham's probably going to be gone and Dalvin Cook's going to be gone and all these things. And CJ Ham was extended for 2 more seasons. I believe, if I'm right, Jordan, that means through 2025.
Yeah.
So like you said, the Vikings are sort of recommitting to this. We're not, make no mistake, this team isn't going to just turn into the Baltimore Ravens where they run every play. But at the same time, they're also realizing that you can't be as anemic in the run game as they were and expect to win playoff games. And so the Josh Oliver signing and now the CJ Ham extension, which I think was a surprise to a lot of us. I mean, I was surprised that 2 years more of CJ Ham, great player and everything, but how underutilized he was last year. They seem to be very much committing to a more run. I don't want to say heavy, but more focus on the run game than they had last year.
I think that and I'm going to try my best to not make every topic on this show about quarterbacks, but forgive me a little bit, man. The quarterback it's weighing on my mind. It's heavy in the news right now, and it's a big deal. I think the CJ Ham, and I'm going to tie the CJ Ham extension with the Josh Oliver signing. I think that is a sign the Vikings are about to get a rookie quarterback, and they want to make sure that they can run the ball to make him comfortable. And I think it might be a step in the direction of, we want to make this offense San Francisco-esque in that Trey Lance runs it. Okay? He's injured. Jimmy Garoppolo, you're up. Oh, we're one of the best teams in the NFL. We're winning games. We're on a roll. Oh, Jimmy Garoppolo, out for the season. Brock Purdy, Mr. Irrelevant, step right up. You're going to go on a 7 or 8 game win streak. You're going to look like the best quarterback since Tom flippin' Brady playing in this offense, because it's just like, it's quarterback proof. Like, I legitimately feel like if they gave me a year or 2 years with Kyle Shanahan, they could have me out there running this offense, because that's how quarterback proof it is. I'm going to be honest. I'm going to really quick. Jack Day was kind of big on Brock Purdy. He has some talent. These guys that were acting like he was a legitimate insurance salesman that, they just pulled in out of the stands, who, they did the college football, like the Dr. Pepper throw commercial where they throw like that. Mm-hmm. Like, he wasn't one of these, nobodies that just pulled. Like, he played for a long time in college. He was a accomplished-ish college quarterback, but like, legitimately, it's quarterback proof. And so I think the Vikings are trying to make this as comfortable as possible, whether it is Cousins, Lance, Hall, Levis, whoever it is. I think that it could be Lamar Jackson for all we know. Who knows? Maybe they are going to run the ball like Baltimore, because they're going to have Baltimore's quarterback come September, 2023. I just think that they're trying to make sure whoever the quarterback is, they can be comfortable knowing they don't have to throw the ball 50 times a game. They're going to control the clock. They're not going to have to be in these shootout 1-score games, because they're going to take a 10-point lead and they're going to sit on the ball for 8.5 minutes. And now all of a sudden they punt, or, they kick a field goal. They're still only up 2 possessions. There's a minute and a half left in the game. The game's over. I think that they want to just be a little bit more controlling. I actually like the moves. And I never thought I would say that. I thought it would take me like 3 years after Mike Zimmer's offenses of, we need to run the ball more. We're down 15, or we're down 50. We need to run the ball. We got to get that run established. I didn't think I'd be here this quickly. I'm okay with establishing the run. I think it's important, and I think San Francisco and Philadelphia showed just how important that is. This season in the NFC, being able to really control the game through whether it was Hurts, McCaffrey, or whoever San Francisco's 86th string running back was. It felt like they go deep in that position. Or one of the 3 guys from Philly. They were just able to control the clock. So I like the signing a lot, and I think that it's exciting. I don't think we talked about it, but they also re-signed Schlottman, didn't they?
Yes.
Or Schlottman, I think it's Schlottman.
Yeah, offensive line depth, basically.
Yeah, but I like that signing. I think it, like you said, it's depth. Yeah. He has experience in the offense, so I think they're really trying to make sure this run game runs very well next season.
I mean, it's same with the Bradbury re-signing. Like, Bradbury was fine this year. I think he was maybe a little better than years past. He maybe did himself some favors when it came to contract negotiations, but he was still by no stretch an elite pass blocking center. And the strength with Bradbury always has been in the run game. And so if you're wanting to be a team that is more formidable in the run game, you want a very good run blocking center. Like it's simple. And so
Absolutely.
keeping a guy around that Kirk likes, I mean, back to the whole Kirk topic, but that Kirk likes and that, the offensive line has continuity with, it makes sense. Cheap deal.
Yeah.
So
Also,
I mean,
running the
I don't have too
ball,
many qualms about that.
yeah, running the ball also keeps your defense off the field. And the
Yep.
Vikings, they see the transition. I thought of this after I, went on my rant or whatever. But, being able to establish the run like that keeps your defense off the field. And the Vikings defense needs to not be on the field very much in 2023 because they let arguably their best corner from last season just walk in free agency over like not that much money.
Like
Uh,
$100,000 or
yeah,
something.
Duke Shelley was like, they offered me, X amount of money, and the Raiders signed him for X plus 100 grand. And it's like, are you kidding me? 100 grand is what made Duke shit. Now, look, maybe it was more than that. Maybe the Vikings, like, were disrespectful in their offers and he felt blah, blah, blah. Well, who knows what happened in the negotiating room. But man, Duke Shelley leaving in free agency is a hit that I was not ready to take. To me, it hurt worse than Adam Thielen. I want to hear your analysis of the Duke Shelley departure.
Yeah. One quick thing on the run game thing before I jump to this, before I forget. We're talking about establishing the run and the importance of that. Just so we're clear, establishing the run is very different than Zimmer's like dependence on it and almost addiction to it, where
Yeah,
it was 2nd and 10 and you were going to run it every time, sort of thing, And so there is a difference between being like is totally addicted to it and having it as a very viable weapon, because the Vikings had a hard time putting teams away at time this year because they did not have a good run game.
right.
You people can complain about Kirk Cousins and, oh, why didn't he put teams away more often, yada yada yada. It's like, well, because we're trying to run the ball 3 straight times to bleed the clock and we just can't get 10 yards. And so having a competent run game that is established is very different than being totally dependent on it.
I
So
agree.
anyway, put that aside. The Duke Shelley thing, man, $1.3 million is all it took to sign Duke Shelley. And I understand that he's not prime Patrick Peterson yet, right? He had half of a good season. He sort of got a bunch of Vikings fans excited, with 7-8 games that were high level. But man, you're not going to, more about, draft level salaries and such than I do, but you're probably going to be paying a rookie about that much any money, right? Like,
Depending on when you take them, yeah. Like first rounder,
so
yeah.
yeah, so like what are we doing here? Like, you have a guy who's got that dog. He can be a aggressive cornerback who can make plays at the point of attack, who can make plays with the ball in the air, who is out to prove something, who made a bunch of Vikings fans excited, got him on their side, and you just let him go because you're not willing to pay $1.3 million. Seems crazy to me. I'm not a general manager for good reason, but at the same time, I see that lack of willingness to make that offer and seems a little bit strange. Like you said, maybe there's something that Kwesi and Kevin and Brian Flores are all in on Andrew Booth and a Caleb Evans. And if they are, more power to them. But at the same time, that's a risky proposition with the health and the lack of provenness in the NFL to this point.
This is the first move that the new regime has made that I will openly say I 100% disagree with. I don't care how much you love Andrew Booth Jr. or a Caleb Evans. A Caleb Evans got half a dozen concussions last season. That's probably a reason to
Yeah.
not be dependent on him. If he can
Yeah.
play, that's wonderful. If not, you're paying Duke Shelley $1.2 or $1.3 million. Like, it's not like we're breaking the bank, so he has to play. If Booth has a great camp, you can stout Booth. If Evans has a great camp, you can stout him. Booth, on the same ticket, came out of Clemson with health concerns, played one game against Dallas, looked ridiculously bad, and then got injured and didn't play another snap all season. I would understand this move if the Vikings signed Byron Murphy and they had a pipeline of, proven, not even proven, but like guys like Cameron Danslow a few years ago, where it's like, hey, he kind of showed some promise, he's like a second, third round pick. If he takes a step up, blah, 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 this, that, and the other. We're talking about guys with serious health concerns, not just skill concerns. We're talking about guys that can't get on the field, and we're letting Duke Shelley walk over $100,000. It doesn't make sense to me. If this defense is really bad, obviously it will not just be like, oh, well, Duke Shelley would have fixed everything. But if the defense does not take like a leap up to be like a top 20, top 16 defense, then this move, rightfully so, should be, put it under a spotlight or put under a microscope and analyzed as like, you guys had an opportunity to bring back a fan favorite, PFF top 10 defensive back the last half of the season, and you let him walk over, in NFL terms, pennies. What are we doing? Like, what exactly are we doing? And it's just frustrating. It's very frustrating to see Duke Shelley walk. I was kind of kidding about, it was kind of like ham-fisted, like, oh, I miss him more than Adam Thielen, because obviously, everything Thielen did. We went on a whole rant about that last week, but like, I just disagree with it.
For this team's needs,
yeah,
we
for
do
this,
miss him more.
right. And this team will miss Duke Shelley more than, a 33-year-old Adam Thielen who all of the advanced metrics said it has lost a step or two in terms of separation and everything. So it's just it's one of those things where I struggle to come up with words other than just like repeating, it's very frustrating. It's very frustrating. And so I'll say it one more time. It's very frustrating that the Vikings let, the Duke of Shelley just waltz over to Vegas to play for them. So I don't know. Hopefully he sucks in Vegas and it kind of validates Kwesi's, balk on that. But gosh, it just, I don't know. I can't, I'm going to say it again. I'm going to say it's frustrating again. And I don't want to do that.
I mean, what could very well happen, and I have a caveat that I'll throw out there or after this little comment, is that, if Evans and Booth end up getting hurt again at some point in this season, you're going to be just snatching practice squad guys to try and put people on the field. So there has to be more moves that are made between now and training camp. It's just undeniable. You can't go into training camp with 5 cornerbacks. They have Evans, Booth, Murphy, and 2 random guys, Barnes, and I can't even remember the other guy's name. My apologies to that.
Yeah, it's on the tip of my tongue, but I'm not going to fight over it.
But those other 2 guys are very likely to not even make the team or just be, special teamers or whatever. And so you're looking at a situation where you need more bodies, because right now, and I think Dustin mentioned this last week, is that at this point where the cornerback room sits, you have to put Byron Murphy in the slot because these other guys don't play in the slot, and you're just SOL at that point. And so obviously more moves are coming, but to me, it's very, like you said, very frustrating and kind of confusing that one of those moves very easily could have been a very cheap cornerback that proved things to you last year. Make him prove it one more time for 1 year. He was willing to do 1 year, obviously. So we'll get off our Duke Shelley soapbox. It's pretty clear how we feel about the lack of re-sign there. But
I have one more Duke Shelley point I want to talk about. And it's just super quick. If Duke Shelley balls out, nothing would please me more than for the Vikings to come crawling back hat in hand and give him like a 4 or 5 year deal. Give him some massive defensive back contract and be like, "Well, sorry, Duke, we messed up. Come home. Like, come home, Duke." The Vikings were basically a summer home to him because he played here for 8 weeks. But
Yeah.
oh my gosh, it is. I need to get it tattooed on my forehead. Apparently, how he was good. He was good. He was a bright.
Yep.
He was a shining diamond in a pile of poo poo that was your defense. And you're gonna bring back. You're gonna bring back Jordan Hicks.
You're gonna go buy a Duke Shelley Raiders jersey and you're gonna wear it to the Vikings Raiders game next fall in Las Vegas.
It's
wearing
tempting.
your Vikings hat and your Duke Shelley jersey.
It's very tempting, but like legitimately, how much did we sign Jordan Hicks for? Because I would much rather have been like, oh no Jordan Hicks. I guess we'll have to fill in that with a TBD rookie or someone will have to step up. Blah blah blah. I'd much rather be talking about who's gonna take Jordan Hicks' spot, who was terrible last season, except for in the run, apparently. But like he was terrible against the pass last season, rather than, in the year of our Lord 2023, when it is a passing league, you're going to be going up against, I almost said Matthew Stafford. You're going up against Jared Goff and his, massive arsenal of weapons. Justin Fields, they're trying to stockpile him wide receivers to prop him up. You're going up, you look at your schedule for next season, you're playing a first place schedule. You're playing good quarterbacks, good wide receivers. Maybe we shouldn't have signed Jordan Hicks and we should have used all that money to bring back Duke Shelley. Like, it just... Oh, I hate this team sometimes. I really do. I really, it makes me want to announce my fandom, go full in on the XFL, and become a Chicago White Sox fan, and just get really into baseball. Super frustrating.
Couple just last tidbits that we will close down this week with is, sort of underwhelming signings to the naked eye, but hopefully helpful when it comes to depth and camp competitions. The Vikings signed 2 former Rams, not terribly surprising with the Kevin O'Connell ties. Brandon Powell, a punt returner / wide receiver who's not going to see a ton of snaps on the offensive side of the ball. Vikings fans may remember him from his 2021 day after Christmas punt return touchdown that sort of put a knife in the Vikings that season at US Bank Stadium. I was at that game. There was a blatant block in the back that was not called, but we will digress from that. And the other signing, Troy Reeder, a linebacker, again from the Rams Super Bowl team. He played with the Chargers last year, mostly as a special teamer, so you'd imagine he's probably going to see a lot of special teams time if he makes the team. He was a starter for the Super Bowl Rams defense, so who knows what he can sort of resurrect after a season of mostly playing special teams for the Chargers. But again, some Kevin O'Connell ties, some depth at the linebacker position. You're likely going to have some young guys playing linebacker, so having a veteran in the room, never a bad idea. And just so we're clear on this, both guys are on one year contracts. So like I said, mostly depth guys. Maybe they can surprise us in camp.
Not to be this guy, but we got money for punt returners. We got money for third string special team linebackers. We don't have money for Duke Shelley. It just make sense. Make it. I'm telling you, this is like trying to think of our old GM's name. This is Rick Spielman level frustrations boiling over here of you drafted Christian Ponder at 10 or at 12, whatever. What are you doing? What are we doing here? This is major eyebrows being. We got Laquan Treadwell. That's our answer for wide receiver. This is major eyebrow raising. Look, I'm excited about Powell, mainly because I think he will just be a punt returner. I don't think we'll be sending him on deep posts against Indianapolis while we're trying to make the biggest comeback ever, and I don't think he'll see the field, so hopefully he's kind of buried on the depth chart enough that he doesn't have to step in and do the Jalen Luego thing. And like you said with Luido, maybe he can be the veteran presence linebacker instead of Jordan Hicks. who I don't think you can ignore how bad he was against pass coverage last season. I know that
Yeah.
we tried to put a nice spin on the Jordan Hicks signing, and I still don't hate it because it was so cheap. But
Yeah.
I still feel like an Ansel needs to be at the second linebacker spot, because if they throw on first down or on an expected run situation, if they come out throwing, I know who they're going after, and it's probably
Yep.
Jordan Hicks, who I can't imagine is going to gain a step at this stage of his career. So maybe he can come in and take Hicks' job, and it can be him and Asamoah. It could still be Asamoah and a rookie linebacker TBD.
Yep.
There's a lot that's going to change in 1 month's time. April 27th, I think, is the draft. If I have that correct. Yeah, the last
Round one,
Thursday. And a lot about this team is going to be answered and expected, in 1 month's time, a little over a month, because, there's other rounds in the draft other than the first round. So, I mean, I don't know. There's a lot of questions on this team, but it's an exciting time because it is. I think a lot of people expected this last season with the regime change. They expected oh yeah, they're going to clean house, and they're going to get rid of all these old contracts, and they're going to get rid of Cousins, and they're going to bring in their guys. And we're seeing that now. We're seeing old Rams coming to be Vikings now because we have a Rams head coach, and we're seeing Kwesi cut ties with some of these Spielman, lifetime achievement award contracts. And it's exciting. It's hold your breath. If they don't hit, they won't have jobs for very long. If they do hit, we're winning a Super Bowl, baby, without Duke Shelley somehow. So we'll see what happens. But I'm excited for the draft. I think that we're gonna have to start diving into some draft topics in the coming weeks to really get the people, get the people going, get them revved up, like Will Ferrell said in Blades of Glory. So. Yeah, I will quickly say, make sure you shop Unified Athletic. Make sure you follow the show at LTB Vikings. Make sure to check us out wherever you get your podcasts. Smash that subscribe button on YouTube. Hit the like button. Share us with your friends. Tell your friends about us. Blah blah blah. All that stuff. Follow. My camera's doing an awful job of knowing where I'm actually at because I'm not using my normal camera. So follow Will on Twitter at WillBadLose. He just produces grade A content. Make sure to check out the Bad Loser blog. And finally, check out VikingsTerritory.com for all the latest Vikings news and speculation. And, it's an exciting time to be a football fan. This is when Super Bowls are won. And I'll let you close us out here, as that's, I think, my final thoughts for the week.
Sweet. Yeah, just the last couple tangential thoughts from me. Congratulations to the San Diego State Aztecs, Kevin O'Connell's alma mater, for making the Final Four in the men's basketball tournament.
Good tie-in.
Kevin and Kwesi were at the regional semifinals and finals, I believe, hanging out because Princeton and San Diego State were in the same arena. Just a couple former nerds hanging out, cheering on their alma maters. And as you see behind me, I got my Wolves rally towel. It's playoff push time for the NBA. If you're a Wolves fan listening to this, go cheer on the Pups. They got 7 games remaining on the schedule, making a push for the playoffs. So that's all we got. Vikings draft coming up here. Like Jordan said, in 31 days is when round 1 kicks off. Lots, hopefully, to discuss between now and then. Maybe some new free agent signings, trades, etc. And then, of course, it's draft time. It's time to prep to bring in some young guys. So we will talk more next week, most likely, about the draft and some Vikings needs. Until then, skol, y'all.